All right, welcome back. We are COMP2112 in the fall 2022 semester at Georgian, and it's week 13, part 3 of our broadcast and recording. The last part, what we did was we started setting up and configuring, well, changing the way our Express generator was set up. We, kind of installed Express, and we said there's a lot of changes because we want to make sure the TypeScript worked for us. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to continue with the Express generator. So back to our Visual Studio Code. This is a great time to transpile. Let's do that. So Control-Shift-B, and we'll transpile, and we'll see that we're going to transpile with a watch task. Okay, so we're going to do. There should be at this point no errors. Okay, because if you downloaded my project, you're going to see that there's no errors. It converted everything to our app.js file. So everything that was app.ts got converted nicely, and everything works beautifully at this point with TypeScript. Okay, next, what we want to do is with our app.ts, I want to run this thing locally. So again, I'm just going to open up another little terminal here, and we're just going to call yarn start, which is going to run everything locally. And it says here, we're running, we should be running on our application, right? And let's see if it's true. So I'm going to take it back to here, and I'm just going to run localhost 3000, and we should get Express. Yay! Right. That's what we worked for just now, just to get this Express. Yay! Right? I know it's not really that exciting for most of you, but for me, it's exciting because when I first did this, when I converted everything from JavaScript to TypeScript, I was like, "All right, thank God." I don't want to use JavaScript as much as possible when it comes to this crazy stuff, right? It's just going to make it a lot easier to do it this way with TypeScript. It's just a one-time cost. Once you've done this the first time on the front end, it helps you with everything else you've been doing this entire semester. And that's why I took it there today with you guys, right? So, so this is our first piece, as an example. And what I want to do now is I want to move forward with this to kind of show you how to make this useful, because right now it's not useful, right? And let's talk about how this is all stitched together, because it feels like a little Frankenstein when you look at this for the first time. So let's take a look at it. So one, server.ts. Server.ts basically sets up our server. This is the actual server itself, and it very much looks like a node server. So here is our server, HTTP create server. That is node 101. We did that last week, okay? And it's funny enough that even though it's the Express generator, it doesn't really use the Express server piece. It uses a node server at the back end because it's a little simpler. And this kind of layers everything else on top of that. Okay, once the server has been created, we also import the app, going backwards, the app that's been created inside of our app.ts file. So really, although the server.ts file is our real entry point, nothing is really happening here for us. Everything that's happening for us, we're not going to really touch this file is what I'm saying again, right? All we care about now is the app file, the ./app file, which is here in our app.ts. App.ts includes all the middleware functions in the proper order that have been included here. So create error, Express with our little next function from Express, path, and we can actually just do this now because we're explicit. Path, from path, cookie parser, our logger, index router and stuff. We're going to get to this. This is our routing. So this is our routing we have to work with. This is where we're going to do some work. And up here, these are our third party or all of our required node modules. That's what these are. Okay. We have the Express application instance. This is the application itself, okay? And then now we have a bunch of app sets and uses, and this is all middleware stuff, all right? So this is app set. We're setting the views environment variable, and we're saying that we're going to join the directory name with our views folder, which means I'm going to be looking in the views folder for any view. Views folder is right here. There's our views folder, okay? And we're also setting up another environment variable. We're letting Express know that the view engine that we're using is EJS. So we're saying that's the templating engine we want to use. Now, if I could configure this any way I want, all right, but for now, that's what we're using. The rest right here, so this is middleware configuration, right? So these are all the middleware configs that we want to use. We're using Logger, which is coming from our Morgan third-party module. We're setting up Express.json, and Express.json returns. We can parse JSON now if we really want to, right? We probably won't need to for this semester, for the rest of the remainder of today. We are encoding it in the right way. We're using a cookie parser to accept and parse cookies. And there's our lovely Express static, where we're looking inside of our public folder for everything we need that we're going to set up locally. Now, what this means is our public folder uses images, JavaScripts, and style sheets. I don't like this. So this is where we're going to change some stuff. So I want another folder inside of public. This is our changes. This is for your in-class exercise. I'm going to call this the assets folder in capital A, assets. Inside my assets folder, I want to grab this images file, this folder, and put it inside there. So assets images is our structure. And just to maintain our structure, I'm going to use a .getkeep file. So I'm going to use a new file, which I'm going to add in here called .getkeep. So now this is what's looking like: assets, images, and .getkeep inside of there. All right. So I want to keep that images folder if I had images to add. So for your assignment 4, assignment 3, you're going to be using the getkeep or the images folder for any images you want to put in. Okay. JavaScripts. I don't like that name. I'm going to rename it to scripts. Okay. Style sheets. You know what I do? I make it content. So let's rename this thing to content. All right. And I don't like the name, styles CSS. I like app.css. Let's rename that to app.css. And this is our app.css that by default, it gives us all this information here. I'm going to get rid of it because we don't want some default styling right now. So right now, this is where our custom CSS goes. Okay. So this is where that is. That's our app.css. By the way, if I go back to our app here and refresh, it's going to be all messed up now because I've taken away its app.css, right? I've moved it away. We're going to fix this in a second, and we're going to use Bootstrap. Back to this. So I've restructured my public folder to have assets, content, and scripts the way we want it. Let's add a scripts file. We're not going to use it right now, which is going to be called app.ts, just like the other one that we've seen before. And remember our app.ts, let's just add a very simple iffy like we normally do. So just before, here's our iffy. We're going to say function. We've done this before, right? And our iffy is just going to be a file that has a function start. Remember this? Hopefully you do. And we're going to say a console log, which is going to say app started. Okay, we're not going to use it yet, but I'm going to show you how to get to it. And then some kind of window.onload. We're going to go to the start function. Okay, that's what that is. That is our little iffy function I put in my app.ts. I'm just going to put that in there so you can see how that binds together. There it is. That's the file that you can put in your app.ts in your scripts folder. Pause. Are you with me? This is just setting up our structure right now, right? That we've kind of seen before in the past. Check mark if you're with me, or thumbs up. And if you're not, please let me know. Good. Tyler's good. Mark is good. What, Alex, are you good? I didn't see that. And how about Sarah and Elena? Huh, that's weird that you did. Okay. All right, let's continue. Thank you for that feedback. So now that we have this, we have our structure for this inside of my public. I want to start renaming some of our our folders here so that they adhere to our naming structure, which is capital V for views, capital R for routes, and so on, and capital P for public. So on that, I'm going to stop my server to do this. So going back to here, I'm going to stop my server. I'm stopping the server here. And I'm going to just rename my public folder. Let's rename it. So F2 to rename the public. Now, here's something that you have to think about with Windows. Public lowercase p and public uppercase p in Windows is the same thing. So let's name it something completely different and then name it back. So again, we're going to say something like public old. Watch this. So do this with me. Public old, right? And it's going to rename public. Give it a second, right? And make sure that these are all closed up. So you may have to close all this to happen. Notice how my app is spinning its wheels, trying to figure out what to do, because I'm making it look somewhere and it doesn't know what to do, right? You may have to just close down your project and rename it in the editor. I'm okay with that. Again, nothing's going on right here, so I can close this down and go to my project in my folder and just rename it here. Doesn't matter. But I want these new names, and because it makes more sense again for us, right? That's why we're doing it. So back into our folders here inside of week 13. Let's just make sure that these are named properly. So public old, let's rename that to public, capital P. And I have to do this because, like I said, in Windows, capitals or lowercase, there is no case sensitivity in Windows. So I'm going to rename this to routes old. So again, just rename this to routes old first, and then rename it again to routes. Sorry, that's the trick for Windows. And rename this to views old, and rename it again to views. Okay, and what this will do is set up our project the way it's supposed to be set up. Public, routes, and views, right? Some people say routes, potato, potato. Okay. And let's launch Visual Studio Code again to get that project right back to where we were. And there it is, public, routes, and views. But now everything is broken again because the routing is wrong, right? Let's fix the routing. So, and even if it doesn't complain, fix the routing. So here's what we're going to do. So here inside of, we'll start with our app.ts, please. In our app.ts, rename line 15, rename this to views, right? Line 23, we want to rename this to capital P public. And above the two that I missed were capital R for routes for both of these. Please do that and save and transpile. Control-Shift-B to make sure that it works. Good. All right, so now it's working. Let's relaunch it or go back to your site here and refresh. And you should see everything is still good. If it was good, it would be running right now. And if it's not, it's going to error out. And let's see why. Because although we've transpiled, we haven't launched our server. Let's launch our server. I'm just going to go to yarn start. And if I refresh, that should be running our server now like this. Okay. So far, so good. Changes, changes, changes. And let's go into our views folder now. And I want to show you the first file we're going to change, which is our index.ejs file. In our index.ejs file, we have a very simple HTML document. We don't want this HTML document. We want something that's nicer than this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to change this a little bit. And the way to do that is we're going to consider this HTML. And we're going to use HTML5 down here. I want to use this structure, not this structure that EJS has given us, right? And notice how it's going to a link that is style sheets for this style sheets. We don't have style sheets anymore, right? So I want to get there. And the way to do this, I'm going to get rid of this in a second, this part. But the way to do this is we're going to do, instead of document, this will be our website. So we'll call this COMP2112, right? This is what I want down here. And I want, just like we've done before in the past, this is our CSS section. And in our CSS section, the first one we want is our link which is going to be from, and I want you to see this, which is I'm inside views and I want to go to style sheets, or style sheets and views. Now it's actually in public. It's called content. I need to put content and then app.css like that. So slash content slash app.css. And you're going to say, wait, what? Why am I doing this? Right. And the reason why you're saying this is because, because our public is inside the path. I don't have to include public here at all in my relative path, because public, remember in app.ts, we join the path to public. That means I don't have to include the public keyword in the stuff that I'm looking for inside of my index.ejs. I don't have to do that. I can just say slash content, and public is implied. That's what we're going to do. Okay. Public is implied. All right. So that is this. I just want to copy these two pieces from here, and I'll put them in here for now to show you what those two pieces do. And I'll talk about them in a second, and then get rid of all this, because that is just our updated version of our HTML document. Save. Updated version. Okay, so far. And I want to go back out here and refresh, and now you're going to see there should be no errors anymore. And if I press Control-Shift-J, there should be no errors down here. Okay, no errors. Come back to this in a second. All right, how about if I want to add Bootstrap and those things? Let's add Bootstrap in here as well. Now, the only way I can add Bootstrap is if I access to node modules, but node modules for now is, well, not available to me, right? Because node modules is not part of my structure. So I want to add node modules to my structure. So let's go back to my app.ts file, this one, and add node modules in. And the way to do that is after line 23 here, where it says public, let's change this. Let's just copy paste this whole thing. And what I want to do is I want to say node modules in here too. That means whenever I want to access anything from my node modules folder, I don't even have to say node modules. I just have to say / bootstrap or font awesome or whatever it's going to be without mentioning node modules anymore. It's going to look inside there when it wants to find stuff now, from now on. Okay, so that's what it is on line 24. I added this line. Save. Let's go back to my index.ejs now and add my Bootstrap and all that stuff inside of there for my first file. Okay, let's try this out. So here's how it goes. Ready? So before my app.css, before that, I want to go like this, link, and I want to say the location is going to be bootstrap / dist / and then, by the way, if you want to get code hinting and then just remove the node modules, you can go something like this, / node modules. If you want code hinting, we can go back to this in a second. And bootstrap, and then / dist and / bootstrap.min.css. That's what I want. And we can just remove node modules from here altogether. We don't need node modules because node modules are included in my path. So we don't have to do this anymore. We just have to actually just do bootstrap like this, right? Even content doesn't need this /. We can just do content like this, okay? And then the next one, of course, is link. And we want to do the same thing with font awesome. Let's just use node modules for now, node modules. And we'll go add font awesome, dash font awesome for you just to help us code faster. And then /css / all.min.css. That's what the one I want to use. And then I can just get rid of all this part because I don't need that part because it's part of the path, right? Save. And I want to also include my scripts as well. So at the bottom, where my body tag is, let's use that as well. So I'm going to go script, source, and this is where my this is my script section. Script section, right? And my script section is going to include the following scripts. I want to say, I want to get jQuery again from node modules. So .. / node modules, jQuery, and I want to get dist, JS. Actually, dist, and then it's going to be jQuery.min.js is what I want in there. That's my jQuery component. And then we're going to get rid of node modules in a second. I just want to keep coding. Script source // node modules, and it's going to go to bootstrap / dist / js, and I want to get this bootstrap-bundle.min.js, this one, bootstrap.bundle.min.js, and then followed by our own script source, which is going to be again // scripts // public scripts, and then app.js. But now we're going to get rid of all the stuff we don't need, so you can see how this looks. So now I don't need node modules, so we can get rid of that. I don't need node modules here, so I can get rid of that. And I don't need public, so I can get rid of all that. Okay. And the reason why I don't need them is because they're on the path, like we said before. All right. So now this is what we were used to before, which is what we want to start off with. And now if we save this, and I'm going to give you this file here on our chat. So you have all of this. This is our file, just in case you missed something. And what this is going to do is going to structure our application so that it uses all the stuff we had before. And back to this, if I refresh, now you can see if it was going to work, that it would work okay. It would say it would not give me bootstrap dist bootstrap min.css and have a problem. What did I miss? I missed the CSS after bootstrap. See, that's what happened when I didn't use code hinting. And if I refresh, then we should see everything as bootstrap. Take a look at that. Now that's bootstrap styles that we're using right here, right? There's bootstrap styles. We're not using bootstrap yet, but we're just using the bootstrap styles right away. So we can see that that's working. Let's put this up on GitHub. So we have everything up on GitHub. So git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say updated our index.ejs file. And that's inside of our views folder is what we did there, git push. So that basically what it did was, and I also restructured the naming convention. We did all that in one blow. Okay. Isn't that a beautiful thing? We're ready to go now with the next part of our day, which is, okay, so what is all this stuff that we're getting? Where did it come from? How am I getting the title that says Express here and welcome to Express? Where is this coming from? It's coming from the root file, our index.ts file. Our index.ts file is creating our first root, and our first root looks like this. Router.get, I'm going to go to my default home page, and it's going to look at, it's going to have a function. We can also make this the new way of doing the function, which is like this. It's going to have a function that's going to render using our index template. That means this file right here, using this file right here, and it's going to pass in an object. Curly braces means I'm passing in an object to my file, to my index.ejs file, which includes a title property that has express. We can change this title property to say whatever we want. For example, in my slash, and if it's an index, maybe you want to say home. That is the title, right? And if I change this in our index.ts in my roots file folder to home and press save, again, I'm transpiling and all that stuff. And if I go back to here and refresh, you can see now it says home. Welcome to home. That's what it does. Huh. Well, if that's the case, and if I want to wrap all of this content, this home in there, right, as an example, I want to pass title into there, but maybe we need to pass in a few more pieces of information. The way we're going to route things around the block here is I'm going to not only pass in home, but I'm also going to, like the title, but I also want to pass in the page name, which is how I'm going to switch around things, okay, for us today. So again, this is what I recommend for your assignment 3. So page is another property, which we're going to call lowercase home, like this, okay? So that's our home page. let's add, and this is the root that we've established, the default root. Right now, if I just do this and save, and if I go back out to my page and type in /home, it's going to say, don't know what you're talking about. There is no home, right? The only root that we know about is this one. That's the only root that we know about, the default root, okay? I need to add all my other roots in here as well. And so we can come and start copy pasting. Let's do that. Copy paste, please. And we're just going to copy paste this. We're going to say home, about, projects, services, and contact. Okay, so I've just copied this into my index.ejs file, and it's /home, about, and we can say this is the about page where we say that the title is about. We can say whatever we want about us, right? And here it will be just about, right? And then we say, you know, for the next one, this is the projects page, where we say this is projects. Again, all I did was copy paste, guys. Projects, and this will be our projects. And we'll say this is projects. Now, notice that the page property that I've added in here is lowercase. There's a method to my madness, right? And this will be services. So this is the services page. And this will say our services. And down in here, our project will be services here like this. And we're missing one more, which is the contact page. And our contact page will be this will be /services. I missed that part. And this will be /contacts. Need to change those two. And this will be our, or contact us, maybe. That's what we'll say, contact us. By the way, we've seen this over and over again this whole semester, right? And that is all of our routing that we're going to need for this semester, that you're going to need for potentially for your assignment 3. It's all the stuff we need. Okay. And why? Because all it's doing is it's just changing the title and the page right now. Okay. We haven't done the page switching yet, but we'll talk about this in a second. For now, let's see what this gives us. Let's put this up on GitHub. So I'm going to say git add dot git commit -m, and I'll say modified the index router, which is what this is. Okay. Index router is modified. Awesome. And let's see the effects really quickly. So in the effects, if I refresh, you can see that this is okay, but now home computes, right? And notice at the top corner, it says COMP2112, right? And home computes, and so does about, right? About says about us. And we have to type it in. We have no route, we have no navigation yet, but we're going to get there. And now we also need something else. Let's say, for example, contact works, and all the links we put in there work now. Okay, so that's how it goes. Also notice here down here, we're getting app started because we're routing into our own, local app.ts file inside of a public folder. Okay, because that's in here. We're actually getting this too in our app.ts file. Okay, so that's our router. Okay, and the router itself, what it does is it's being called by our app.ts here. And our main app.ts says, let's include our router, which is routes index. I don't need this routes users. In fact, I don't even need this users file whatsoever. We're going to get rid of this now. So I don't need this, right? So this is in our app.ts on line 10, getting rid of it. This is going to cause an error further down where it says, when I app use, I want to get rid of this one. So let's get rid of this root here. And that's modified. So I modified my app.ts, so I no longer need these 3 files. We don't need them. We're not using them. So we can actually delete them. These 3 files, delete. Our users.files, right? The only route you have now is my index.ts. And let's put this up on GitHub because that's our new state of our project. Moved users routes. Okay. So far, so good. That's our users routes that we've put together. Now, how do I change up the content? Because our index.ejs, the way it works is we use these, instead of curly braces like we used in React, we use this funny syntax, less than percent and percent greater than, are like curly braces in many ways that we used in React, right? Where we inject stuff. Here, we can inject content with an equal sign. Equal means put our value right in here. That's what it means. And we're doing it for welcome, where it says home, and this part right here. But what it really should say in here is something like welcome to our home, and have some kind of like structure to it. So what will this look like? Let's make it so that it's more bootstrappy. Okay, let's do that. So let's get rid of all this. And we'll say something like this. It'll say, here's an H1 with the class of margin bottom 5, let's say. Here's an H1 with a margin bottom 5. We're going to say welcome to our site. That'll be the H1 tag we're going to use, right? And I want a button. Here's a button with an ID of, the About Us button, about an ID of About Us button. There it is, with the class of button dash primary. And what I want to say in the button is something like learn about us, right? And then I just want to click on this because that is going to be my emit, right? And I want to wrap this in a content tag. So I want to say div, right, which is, which is with the class of content. Okay. Or sorry, container, I'll be okay. Wow. That's a bootstrap class, right? I'm going to grab all this stuff and wrap it in there. And that's what all it's going to say now. Okay. And what I want is in my title, let's use that's where the title is going to go. So I'm going to say something like, so when I want to use EJS, I want to say less than percent equals, and then it's going to be title, and then percent greater than. And that means that that is going to be injecting the title that's coming from our route. So our route itself has our title that we send in an object to that particular page. The same page, we're using one template, index, 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 index. That's where it's going to go, right? And that one index template, we're using just this piece, okay? Save. And when I go to index.ejs, you can see that that is where it's going to go. It's going to change the title. Instead of COMP2112, it's going to change to whatever we clicked on. All right, when we click on our thing. But what does this do? Does it actually use Bootstrap? How does it work? So if I go back to our code, and if I refresh, you can see that. Let's go back to here. Did I crash? I did. I crashed. Why did I crash? Oh, I completely crashed. So I'll say yarn start. There we go. And refresh. There we go. Welcome to our site. And if I click learn about us, it doesn't do anything right now. Okay, that learn about us doesn't do anything because it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, we can make it go somewhere with JavaScript, right? We can make it go somewhere with JavaScript. So, but it doesn't go anywhere right now. But that's kind of, look, it looks like Bootstrap to us. That's important. But that's only one link, right? That means that here are in our index.ejs is only one thing. I want to be able to link in as many things as I want. So how does this work? And how do I make it work? Well, I want to use something, the concept of partial files like we've seen before, almost like little components. And I want another folder inside my views folder that I want to create. And I want to make this called content. And I also want to get that nav bar back and all that stuff too, right? I want to have the nav bar. I want all the stuff that we had before. So I want two little folders inside of views. So two folders. First folder is going to be the components view. And the other folder that I'm going to make here is a new folder called content views. There we go. So content and components. We've done this before in a number of different ways, guys, right, this semester. So for my content view, this is really what I want here. This is my content, right, which is my container and my welcome to our site. I think I want everything in a second inside of a container, and I just want to insert my content like this from my homepage. So how do I do my switching? It's like I want to detect, you know, what the object is, and I want to include my content. Okay, let's try this out. So I'm going to put a new file in my content called the home content. Let's make that. So a new file. I'm going to call this home.ejs. That's inside my content folder. It's empty right now. And I want to grab this stuff here that I just did, this part, not including the container. Please don't grab the container. I want to cut this out and I'm going to put it inside my home. So this is the home content. Now this should be familiar because we've done this before, right? But all it takes is my content from my you know, that I have here that I've injected. Now, what I want to do inside of my index.ejs file is I want to inject my content in there, and I can use a directive for this. I can say %, here's my EJS. This is the command you need for your assignment. Include, right? And then I can specify where I want it to come from. I want it to come from ./content/ and then plus the page that I'm in, right? And for now, my page is going to be my home page, right? So this is the page that it's going to go to. Content is probably the thing to say there, Tom. Thank you very much. That's how I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch on the page property that I get in from my route. So if I look at the route has two parts. It has a title and it has a page. I'm going to take this page and it lists the name of my file that I want to load. In this case, it's home, right? And right now it's going to switch depending on which file I'm at. Okay, so I'm going to go to my home page and inject it in there. That includes or injects our data, our partial file from the content folder and the home EJS file. Save. Let's try this out. Going back to here, and I'm going to go here, and if I refresh, it's the exact same. It's the exact same, right? And so it did its job. But if I try something else, let's say if I go to a file that I don't have, like for example, if I went to the about page, and then it's going to go, wah, I'm sorry, but there is no about because we don't have that yet. Okay. Let's put that in there. So I want to copy all of my stuff over and over again, home, about, services, and blah, blah, blah. And I want to do that really quickly. So in my home page, the only thing that's missing here is some kind of, you know, thing like I had before, which is kind of like a horizontal rule, right? And I just want to copy paste my home, about, services, contact really quickly to get this going so you understand the way it works. So again, I want to say Control-C, Control-V, 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 made a bunch of pages, rename them to about, rename them to contact, services, projects, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's change the content inside there. So about us, this will be about us. We don't need a button for about us. We'll get rid of that. And save. We'll need contact. This is contact us. Contact us. We don't need a button for contact us, so we'll get rid of that. Save. And home, we need that. Projects, we'll say our projects. And we don't need a button for our projects, so we'll get rid of that. And services, which will say our services. And we'll get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. And content, my homepage just can be saved. And I've got all my content stubs. These are stubs. You can fill this in with your stuff, right, that you want. Okay. And if I go back now That means every single time I change my stuff, my content is going to be injected here in this container. Let's make it contextual. This will be called main, right? So this will be the main container. All right. And this is where our main content is going to be injected. So main content. That's where it's going to go. Okay. Our main content is going to be in there. And if I go back to here and if I refresh, you're going to see that now it says about us. And if I change this to whatever I want, for example, contact, it's going to say contact us. And if I go back up here, and if I say projects, it's going to say our projects, and this are going to change together. Nice. That's kind of how we did it last time too. And now how about navigation in our footer? Well, that's going to go inside of my components. Now, I'm not going to redo my navigation bar. It's just too long, right? So I want to give you the navigation bar, and I'm going to do that by going into our file from a couple weeks ago, right? So not here, but actually inside of our week 10 or week 11, and inside of our in our source folder, in our views, in our components, in my header.tsx. I'm going to open this up. Actually, I'm just going to copy paste our header and footer and just convert it to EJS. So I'm going to copy paste those two things, right? And that we had from last week, or 2 weeks ago, I mean, and just take those, and I want to put them inside of our components files, right? So that's what I want to go. I want to put them in here, right? So I'm doing this in the operating system. I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to go back to this week, week 13. I'm going to go into the views and in components and paste them in. Okay. And I don't need map files. I don't need these map files or these things. Notice how I took it, right? I don't need those things. So just delete those. And we are going to rename them. So we're going to rename our header. We're going to rename to header.ejs. And I'm also going to rename this to footer.ejs. Okay, let's start with our header, our footer first, our footer. Our footer is easiest because our footer is very easy to kind of put together. So all it is we don't care about any of this other stuff here. Let's get rid of all this. We don't need any of this stuff. We need to go back like this, and we're going to use the exact same stuff we had before, except class name doesn't work. We need to change class name to class again. So class name is going to go back to class. And that is our footer. Copy that if you weren't quick enough, and I'll put that in our chat. That is our footer. And let's inject the footer in our index.ejs. Just like we did this, right? We want to inject the footer in our index.ejs file. And the way to do that is just the same. So I'm going to make it so that down in here, we're going to say, this is our main footer. And I'm going to use a footer tag for this. And inside the footer tag, I'm going to say % include, and I'm going to include / components, right? And it's going to be footer that I'm going to use. And that's it. And that's going to inject my footer at the bottom of my page, exactly the footer that we've been using this whole time. Right, save, go back to our files. And if I refresh, you're going to see our footers right here. There it is. Now we just need my navigation, which is a little bit more tricky, right? And that's why I left it to last. And this is the thing I'm going to work into the remainder of the day. So in our header, now, I want to do some funky things. I want to change anything that says nav links, I'm going to change back to anchor tags, and I'm going to do a mass replace. First, let's get rid of all this extra stuff that I don't need. So all this stuff can go bye-bye, right? And I don't need, don't need the export default stuff. That can go bye-bye, right? And I can just go all the way here and oops, and just gonna have space over. and I'm going to search for nav links and replace them with anchor tags. So I'm going to say, I'm going to search for, I'm going to find nav link, and I'm just going to be a master place. I'm going to search, I'm going to replace it with an anchor tag and replace all, please. Thank you. That's going to work nice. And now I'm going to replace all class names with class. So we're going to replace that back. And thank you, replace all. Thank you very much. That's good. And we're going to replace all of this with href tags, because all this 2 equals is going to be href equals, right? So we're going to say anything that says 2 equals and then curly and then opening curly, I'm going to replace with href equals, okay? And replace all those. We're not done though, because they're going to still have this extra curly brace here. Just go through and just delete it. So these are places where we're going to delete those. And we don't have a TV shows list for this one, so I'm just going to get rid of this last link. Okay. And everything is pretty much the exact same that we had before. No difference. None from the last time. Except maybe our COMP2112 will make this the slash, so we can test that link, that thing as well. Save, and let's see if I can. I don't think I have room to cut and paste this into your chat. I'll try. No, doesn't work. All right, and I want to include the header inside of there too. And how does this work? Well, I'm going to go back into my index.ejs, and just like we did the footer, we'll do the header the same way. So we're going to say header. And we're going to say, I want to % minus and include, and we're going to include the / components header. And we can say -%. And that's going to put our header right there as well. And I think that's everything you need, guys, to start off. There are some additional things we need to fix, and I'll fix them for you right now. So let's do that. And if I save this and go out to our page and refresh, we should have simple navigation again. So I should be able to go to home, about, projects, services, contact. Okay. Same thing that we had before. Let's put this up on GitHub. Git add dot, git commit -m. And we'll say added header and footer components. Git push. Actually, I added everything, all the components, but all the partial files is what I did there. Again, a nice starting spot, but we have issues. And the one issue I want to take care of is inside of my header component. I want to be able to detect what is the live link, right? What is the live link? And that's something that we don't have right now, right? Because in our links right now, there is no way to know in my header component, right? Here it is. I have no way to know if it's a nav link that's active. And the way to check to see if the nav link should be active is if my home page, right, as an example, is the one that is going to be used. So if the page is home, then make this active. If the page is about, make this active. If the page is projects, make that active, and so on. And we can do that by making an if statement that's inside of my class here, right? So the way this works is I want to inject something. I want to say something like, hey, I want to use this. I want to say that I'm going to put this in there. So here's this first part, which is going to say something like this. If my page, right? If my page, right, is equal to home, then I want to, then there's a ternary operator. I want to inject active, right? So I want to inject active in here, right? Otherwise, inject nothing. All right, so that means that will do this little line of code right here we'll do everything, and I'm going to just copy this over and over again here. So this will basically allow me to do the About page, light that up, projects page, light that up, services page, light that up, and contact page, light that up. So page is the object that comes from my router, which is this one right here. Here's our router. Here's the page object, right? It goes into my index.ajs, and we include the component's header. The component's header checks to see if the page is equal to whatever the page is, right? And then it makes this link active, but it doesn't do the other ones if it's on the home page, because this check would fail for the other pages. And I'm using the ternary operator here, which is like an if-else check, right? If this is true, then take this and inject it here. Otherwise, inject nothing. That's what we're doing there. So very slick and easy way to do that. And if we go back to here, and if I refresh, we should see that it's now lit up. So all that same functionality is back. Let's put this up on GitHub. Routing active routes. Okay, nice. So far, everything is as you need it to be. Okay. Couple of last things. I want to enable my button to work. And how do I make that button work in my homepage? My homepage, remember, has this button, home button, right? And how do I make it work? Well, let's do some stuff on the back end. So on my scripts, or on the server side, or the client side. On my scripts, what I want this to do is I want to get access to a button. And if you want to make your scripts work, just give me a second. I'm just going to make sure I do this because I don't want to save. I don't want to kill any more time. I'm almost done. Please bear with me, right? What I want to do here is I want to detect that it's an About button. And if it's the About button, I want to change my location. So this is what I can do here. I can say, right? I can use jQuery because we're using jQuery. I can say, hey, jQuery, right? If I have an About button, so it's going to be the About Us button, if that exists. If you find a button like that, I can say on click. When we click on that button, I want to use a little function, a little callback function. And what I want to do is I want to change my location.href, which is like a redirect, to my /about page. Okay. And that little code will only work when I have this button available. If not, it'll just ignore it. Let's try this out and see if it works. This is inside of my scripts in my public folder, app.ts, right? So this is showing you how we can connect those two things. And back to here, if I go to my home page and I click on my button, it should take us now to my About page. That button is clickable, and I've got all the functionality that I want for now. Stuff that's left to do, right? Which we're going to do on the Monday, because I'm going to, well, actually, I have time here. Do you guys have time? If you got time, I'm going to put this up on render now too, right? Because it's the last piece. Okay. So let's put this up on GitHub first. So I'm going to say git add dot git commit -m. Is that the only way we can use anchor tags? No, we can actually program them like as well. But yeah, I mean, Tyler, the one thing is now we're going to do JavaScript again, right? For those things, right? We could, here's something we could do. We could wrap it in an anchor tag inside, like directly inside of our code as well. And we can use EJS for that, but I recommend using JavaScript, right? So git commit -m, and we'll say enabled button functionality on homepage. Okay, so all that stuff can be done. Now, remember, a lot of things can be done on the server side, but this is not a server-side course. I'm only showing you how to connect up everything you need for your Express portfolio. All you really need to do now, if you think about it, is just inject your code into those little spaces I've given you, and you can add other ones just the exact same way using my example, okay? So it's not going to be that terrible to do. And that's why on Monday, we're going to do some Q&A, just to make sure you have everything you need for your assignment 3. All right, let's go on render.com and put this up now. Last step, and then we'll be done. Thank you for staying with me. So if I go to render.com, right, I want to connect up my my site that I just made, right? So when we go there, I need to make another type of site. So far, we've been making static sites, and now I'm not going to use a static site anymore. I'm going to click New, and I'm going to make a web service instead. Okay, again, I can make as many as I want here, but what we need to do is connect it. We need to connect this to our repository, and it's going to take me a second to do that. And you gotta forgive render for the slowness, but it is what it is, right? Here we are. So there's my link. I'm going to connect it. And what this is going to do is it's going to say, well, what's the unique name for your web service? So this is going to be COMP2112, and we'll call this Express. So we know the Express live site. So I know which one it is, the Express live site, not the other one. The region, it says, is Ohio East, which is better for us, right? We're going to use the main branch. We don't need this part. The environment is going to be Node. No, you don't need to do that, Elena. I'm just showing you what you need for your assignment. That's why I'm giving you this right now. This is not required for your ICE. Your ICE is done at this point, okay? Node build command is yarn, but we really don't need a build command because we're not doing anything. Node server.js is correct. That's all the same commands we have here, okay? And then it says free. We don't want to pay anything, free, okay? And I want to click where it says advanced. There's some other things that you can add in as well. Environment variables and other things here too. Building filters and blah, blah. And we're going to change one thing in a second. Let's make sure that we can create this service first. And so this is the first thing we're going to do. Let's create the service. I'm clicking create service. It's going to take us back to this dashboard that's very familiar to us at this point, I'm hoping. And let it do its thing. And at the end, we're hoping that this is going to work. Now, there's one change we need to make, which is some redirection that we need to take. And I want to make sure we do that, because what we want to do is when we want to redirect everything so that it's always going to go to the if there's ever a page we can't get to, it's going to go back to our main site for a second. And I'm sorry, guys, for going a little bit over time. Please bear with me. I just want to show you this piece because I want everything you have everything you need for your assignment 3. While we're waiting, questions about this process from anybody? This is from Alex or Elena, Mark, Owen, Sarah, Tyler, anybody? Yes, assignment 3 is Express. I mentioned that last week too. Okay, it's going to the next level, uploading the build. It's exciting. Let's see if it's going to work. But at the very minimum, look, the great thing is if you guys you couldn't follow along, remember, for your assignment, you can always use my GitHub repository as a basis for just replacing your content inside of those pages. And what I just want you to do for your last assignment is just get a feel for how it looks to route our page and put everything together, right? Or I'll route our pages using express routing. Rich is going to cover the rest of the details next semester, okay? Now, here's something that we got an error. This is going to be good. It says /routes index. This is good. I like when I get errors like this. It says cannot find module /routes index. Cannot get that, right? And that's in my app.js file. So this is running locally but failing remotely. That's what this problem is. How do I inject images? It's the same as you would inject images every other place. You just have to load them in as in they're an image. There's no other tricks to doing it. Just regular HTML for the most part. But let's fix this problem. So why do you think we're getting this issue with /routes index? Why is this happening? Remember, it can't find this somehow. And there's an issue with the routing, and I'll talk about this in a second. So back to this. So if I go locally, remember, we work locally first, and if we can't do it locally, we got to make it work remotely. This all is okay, but it doesn't find the index route, which means that back in our app.ts way over here, it doesn't know where this is, /routes index, right? And really what we want to just put in is /routes index. Let's put that in there. Now, if we do that, it says, well, if you think about what it's doing, is it's saying go to the routes folder, right? Or a corresponding declaration that says go to there, and that's where it's looking for my index, right? And it's like I'm looking for my index.js file is what I'm kind of looking for, right? Because that's where it's supposed to go. /routes index, this one, is kind of what we want to make work right here. So it's looking inside of routes and going to my index.js file and looking for that, right? That's what it's looking for, and it's not finding that right now, okay? Let's see what else it says here for our viewing pleasure, right? As we start off, it says, so require stack is app.js and server.js, and you can actually trace this, which is a beautiful thing here on render, right? It says that server.js, it kind of worked up to this point, and then it called app.js, and app.js called this one, right? And it tells you where. It says it's got an error, right? And if you look through here at the very low level, that's what the problem is. Now it says there's an error, right? And it's going to keep throwing these errors forever as we keep on going. It's going to keep on doing this until the actual server shuts down, right? It says enabled button function on home, but it says my thing failed. So if I actually go there to here, it's going to be a 502, which is bad gateway because it just didn't work properly. And that's okay, because we're going to fix this problem. Now, I'm going to fix this problem for you for Monday, because right now we're running out of time. I know what the issue is. It's a routing issue, right? But you and I are going to fix this another day, not today. Okay, so Monday is the last piece that you need for me for your assignment 3. And worst case, if you cannot make it work, I would accept the video with it working locally. Okay, worst case. So we got to be flexible here, right? Because this is running online. Normally, by the way, if I was using something like our previous application framework to run on, which would be Heroku, it would have been done by now. But unfortunately for us, sometimes we have to make some changes to make sure everything works. Otherwise, any questions around this? I mean, this clearly failed, but we're going to fix this. Any questions around the other stuff that I did today? All right, that's it for me today, guys. I'm going to keep recording, though, if you guys want to stick around. I'm going to figure the problem out, because this shouldn't be the case, right? So there's a couple of things that I know. So if you want to go. I'm going to spend another 10 minutes decoding, figure out what the issue is. You can stick around.